Dear students, good morning to one and all. This is Dr. Fanikumar, Professor, MBR College of Engineering and Technology. Hope in this pandemic situation you are all doing well. This is the first time I am teaching a subject to you. I have been allotted computer organization to deliver lesson. In this session 1, we are discussing about introduction to computer organization. So along with that, we are also discussing about the 5 units of the subject in brief, and then we will go to the first topic of your unit 1. See, as it is shown in the slide, this unit contains 5 units. So this subject contains 5 units, where unit number 1 is going to discuss about the basic structure of computers, data representation and computer arithmetic. Unit 2 contains register transfer language and micro operations and basic computer organization and design. Unit 3 is going to deal about CPU, that is nothing but central processing unit, which is the heart of the computer, and microprogrammed control. Unit 4 is going to discuss about the memory organization and input-output organization, from where we take the inputs and from to where we store the outputs. And the unit 5 is going to discuss about the multiprocessors and pipeline. So in the coming sessions, as we are going to deal the topics, we will discuss about each and everything in detail. For today's, let us start our session 1, that is nothing but the part 1 of your unit 1. As we have discussed in the previous slide, this part 1 of your unit 1 is basic structure of computers. Again, it is divided into 3 subtopics. One is basic organization of computers. The second one is historical perspective of computers. The third one is bus structure. For today's session, we will try to cover the basic organization of computers. Dear students, before going to discuss about today's topic, I would like to give you the subtopics of the remaining 2 parts of unit 1 also. The part 2 of your unit 1 is nothing but data representation. So means what are the various data types and complementing of numbers, fixed point representation of the numbering system, floating point representation of the numbering system, and other binary codes and error detection codes. And the part 3 of this unit is going to discuss about the computer arithmetic. So this contains the basic operations that in general we can perform are addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. How these all 4 operations can be done by using our computer, and what are the various logic behind performing these operations. And you know very well, or you might have already learned in the previous semester DLD paper, how a binary addition or subtraction can be done, how a decimal addition or subtraction can be done, like that. But if you want to perform the operations multiplication or division, there are no special gates like your NAND gate, AND gate, etc. But how can we perform these 2 operations? To do so, we have certain algorithms designed by the experts. They are multiplication algorithms and division algorithms, which we will discuss in the coming sessions in detail. So, for today, let us hope we are going to complete the basic organization of computers. Dear students, assume that you are already familiar about the basics of the computer. As you are already entered into the second year, in the first year itself, you might have learned the fundamentals of computer science subject and C programming, and also as well DLD, digital logic design. So this first unit is going to cover the summary of the first unit of your FCS and briefing of your DLD. So now in this basic organization of computers, our first point and the first question is, what is a computer? In general also, even though we are very much familiar and daily we are using the computer for all the applications, the exact definition of a computer may be not known to everybody. In a single sentence, we can say that simply it is an electronic device. A computer is an electronic device that takes the inputs in the form of digits. I am repeating, a computer is an electronic device that takes the inputs in the form of digits. You know very well, digits means here only binary values, that are 0 and 1. Means the computer will understand a language that can be notified or written in the form of zeros and ones only. So we can define a computer as an electronic device which takes the inputs as digital form. So the basic definition of a computer is given in the slide, that is, it is a programmable machine that can execute or run a pre-recorded list of instructions. Here, make a note of it, a pre-recorded list of instructions. So who is going to provide these instructions? The users of the computer are going to provide the instructions to the computer to do what? To do what? But to perform or to execute these instructions, computer will follow certain set of rules. So that's why a computer is defined as a programmable machine that can execute or run a pre-recorded list of instructions which follow certain rules. Means the certain rules together called as a program. The certain rules together called as a program. So what a computer actually contains? We have given a definition and the figure is showing that some parts like 1, 2, 3, 4 like. So what are those actual parts and how they are made up of? The actual machinery in the computers is nothing but group of wires, some transistors and some circuits made up of. It is called as a computer. And these all together, wires, transistors and circuits, are called as, are termed as, with one word, called as hardware. And the second one is, okay, we have hardware, and if the hardware is there available, is it enough? No, we need certain set of instructions and some data to be executed with the instructions. So these certain set of instructions and data combinedly called as a software. So the basic two components of a computer are hardware and software. So these two components together called as a full processed computer. So what these computers basically do? These computers can process the data, means if we produce a raw data, that will be converted by doing some operations and a formatical data will be given as the output, and also this processes pictures and it processes some sounds, it processes some graphical formats also. So you can say the basic application of a computer as this computer can solve highly complicated problems quickly and accurately. So whatever the problem, at whatever the extent you give, this will execute and solve those highly complicated problems within fraction of seconds, and also the result of that complicated problems will be accurate. See, solving the problem maybe within the seconds or taking some time is okay. Everybody will do. But the result also must be accurate. So, if this computer solves problems quickly, also gives the result accurately. So, now what the basic activities that can be performed by a computer, just we will see. Basically, by seeing the previous diagram, you might have seen one CPU there, one keyboard, one mouse, one just monitor like that. So by seeing that diagram and with the various parts, internal parts of the computer that are available, that are existing, we can say that any computer or a computer can perform 5 major operations or functions irrespective of their size and make. Here why I am mentioning the irrespective of their size and make is, you might have seen different types of or generations of computers based on size, based on the software that is used, based on the company that is being developed like. In our next session, we are going to discuss about the historical perspective of the computer. There we will discuss about the generation of the computers. Now let us concentrate on the various operations that can be performed by a computer. The first most operation that a computer is being performed is, it receives the data or instructions by way of input. Means whatever the data we give, we means user, whatever the data the user give or whatever the instructions the user feed, that accepts by the computer, that is the first activity of the computer. So which unit of this computer is performed this? That is nothing but input unit. Input unit is the one, it is being used by the user to feed the data into the computer. And the second activity of this computer is, it stores the data. So whatever the data that we give should be stored somewhere for the later usage of the operations, like any operation, logical, arithmetic, or whatever it is. For that purpose, the computer will store the data. Where it is storing the data? In storage unit. So you see, what is input unit? Example. What is storage unit? Example. We will discuss in the next slides. The third activity is process the data as required by the user. So whatever the data and instructions that are fed by the user is stored temporarily in the storage unit, and based on the instructions given by the user, the data will be processed. Fine. The data is processed and the result is came out. So this result should be displayed. Where it is displaying? The fourth activity of the computer is, it gives the result in the form of output by using some output units. And here the fifth and the very very important activity of the computer is controlling all the above operations. See, accepting the data or the instructions, storing the data, processing the data, displaying the output, whatever it is, all these operations should be controlled by somebody. Also, it performs some arithmetic and logical operations inside a computer. To do all these activities, we need a part that contains ALU and CU, arithmetic logical unit and control unit, put together, performs controlling all the operations and performing some arithmetic and logical operations. These are the basic 5 activities or operations or functions of a computer. Now let us see the block diagram or the functional units of a computer. In the previous slide, as we have discussed, there are basically 5 parts are there. You can see the first one is input unit, to which we are feeding the data. That data, with the help of the input unit, is going to storage, means storage unit, which is again a part of it contains 2 parts in it, secondary storage and primary storage. We will discuss later. And from the storage unit, the data is being received by the control unit and the arithmetic logical unit, which is together I told you together as a single unit, where I have not mentioned the name of that single unit there wantedly, which is called as CPU, central processing unit, which is called as the heart of the computer or brain of the computer, where all the operations can be performed there. After performing the operations, again the result will be transferred to the storage unit, from which it will be delivered to the end user with the help of the output unit. See, the 5 parts of this block diagram of the computer are again represented in the functional units as input, output, memory, arithmetic and logical, and control unit. Together these two are called as a processor. Okay, so this input and output are also called as peripherals of a computer. So this slide shows you the block diagram of a computer and its functional units. Means functional units are put together, connected with each other, that converts into a block diagram. Now let us have a discussion about these 5 units what we have discussed now. First one, input. So as I told you, input means this is the process of entering the data and instructions. I told you in the very beginning, set of instructions is called as a program. So with the help of a program, a user will enter the data into the computer system. Now see, what is the definition I told you in the very beginning of a computer? A computer is a electronic machine, like just any other electronic machines, which it takes raw data as input and performs some processing to give processed data as output. See, I am again repeating the definition of a computer here by giving some live example. Computer is an electronic machine or electronic device like any other electronic machines. You take a mixie or grinder. So it is also an electronic device. In that mixie or grinder, once if you pour a raw data, after doing some process, you will get the final output for making some breakfast or something else. So initially whatever you are giving is raw data, and after performing some process, what you are getting is the processed data, which is useful to the user. So the input unit takes the data from the user. Input unit takes the data from the user to the computer in an organized manner for processing. So the next one is storage unit. I told you in the beginning itself, after taking the data from the user with the help of the input unit, that should be stored. So storage unit, what is the activity of the storage unit? The activity of the storage unit is saving data and instructions that are given by the user. So this data has to be fed into the system before actual processing starts. I am repeating again. Whatever the data that is given by the user, it should be stored in the system before only starting the actual process. Why? Why you know? Because whatever the unit that is going to perform all the control operations, logical operations, that is nothing but central processing unit, is so fast. To reach that speed, if we are giving the input or the instructions then and themselves, it is not possible to cope up with the speed of the CPU. That's why whatever the data or the instructions we need to perform some operation, that should be before only fed into the storage unit to cope up, to match with the speed of the CPU. So after storing the data in the in the storage unit, the CPU will take the data from the storage unit whenever it is required. So the storage unit is nothing but your memory locations only. The memory, you might have already heard about this memory. There are different types of memories like primary memory, secondary memory, again RAM, ROM, EEPROM, PROM, like that. So these are all you have already learned in the FCS subject of your first semester. So the storage unit or the primary storage of the computer system is designed to store the data and to pass the information to the CPU whenever it is required. So, what are the basic operations of the storage unit? All the data and instructions stored before and after processing. Means before starting the process, the information is there in the storage unit. After processing also, it is there in the storage unit in the form of a result. And you see, in between also, if any temporary results are there, intermediate results are there, that results also stored in the storage unit only. So when we are making some calculations, initial input and final output, in between these two, there must be some temporary values are generated. So those temporary values also stored in the storage unit. And coming to the third one, processing unit. I told you just now, processing unit is used to perform all the operations like arithmetic, logical operations. So the central processing unit takes the data and instructions from storage unit and makes all sorts of calculations. As I told you, additions, subtractions, multiplications, divisions, logical operations, etc. Whatever you are expecting from a computer to be done, all those operations all those calculations can be done by this central processing unit, and the result again will be passed to the storage unit. And the fourth one is output unit. So what it is going to do? Whatever the operation being done and whatever the result is stored in the storage unit, if an user is expecting that to see, that will be delivered to the user by using this output unit. The best output unit, what you know very well, is your monitor only. So whatever the result that is generated or calculated is displayed on the monitor based on the user request. You know C language, like the printf command is there. What for you is the printf command? To display the result on the screen. So that is nothing but output will be displayed on the screen. Or else, if you want to make it some permanently, you take the printout of it. The result will be taken a printout. So printer is again used as one of the basic output unit. Sometimes we use storage unit also as output unit. Means we can store it permanently in the pen drive, or maybe in the hard disk, or maybe the CD, or maybe the DVD, which are all called as secondary storage devices. So all these secondary storage devices also being used as output units. So the next one is control unit. I told you. Now whatever the above functionalities we have discussed, so when what function to be done? When what function to be done? Who will control this? Who will guide this? That is nothing but your control unit. See, the definition given here is the manner how instructions are executed and the above all operations are performed can be monitored by this unit. So means controlling and coordinating of all operations like inputting, processing, outputting are performed by the control unit. So it takes care of step-by-step process of all operations. I am repeating, it takes care of step-by-step processing of all operations, and also it acts as a supervisor. I am telling, it acts as a supervisor, seeing that the things are done in proper fashion. And next, it determines the sequence in which the computer programs and instructions executed. We have fed some instructions, and which instruction to be done first and which instruction to be executed next. That sequencing also can be determined by the control unit. And this control unit is also used for processing of programs stored in the main memory and interpretation of the instructions and issuing the signals for other units of the computer to execute them. Here I am using a word called as interpretation. See, this interpretation means you know very well that whatever the programming that is executed by or entered by the user is maybe in the high level language. You know very well that a computer cannot understand the high level language. It is going to understand all the instructions with the help of only zeros and ones. That is nothing but machine level language. So to convert these high level languages into machine level language, we use these interpreters like assemblers, compilers, interpreters, etc. etc. These are also under the control of the control unit. And lastly, this control unit also acts as a switchboard operator. Switchboard operator when several users access the computer simultaneously. This will come in the multiprocessing concept. Means if a server is there, many number of users are there connected to the server, and all the users, means now in this terminology we can call them as clients. The clients are putting requests to server for some information. So that server needs to respond to all the clients. So to which to client it need to respond first, and which client it need to keep pending some idle. So these are also controlled by this control unit. So that's why this control unit is also acts as a switchboard operator to toggle between one device to another device. Means to toggle, to alter, to change between one user to another user. Now, after discussing about the 5 parts of your computers, again these 5 parts only broadly divided or categorized into 2 parts, as I told you. Means a computer system is categorized into hardware and software. We have discussed in the first slide itself, where again the hardware, computer hardware means what I told you, group of bytes, transistors, and that are connected with each other. So here they are named as IO devices, storage unit, CPU. So computer hardware provides the physical mechanism. Repeating, physical mechanism hardware. Remember, logical system or logical mechanism software. These two terminologies you remember. So physical mechanism which appears in front of us, which we can see. You can ask me, sir, when we are writing a program, we are also able to see the program also. Does it means that it is not a hardware or software? No, you see that, but once if you store it in a system, inside the system, the program which is converted into zeros and ones, which may be in your C language, may be called as object code or whatever it is, that which you cannot see. So that's why whatever the items, the units, the devices that you are visible daily or belongs to hardware, and once after you enter the program in a high level language, whatever that is stored inside and may be executed and converted into machine code or whatever it is, which is not visible, is a software. It is nothing but logical mechanism. So the computer hardware is mainly nothing but your input devices, output devices, memory, CPU. We have already discussed about all these input devices, output devices, etc. So what are the examples of input devices which you know? You can easily tell that keyboard, the most basic input device, and mouse, and joystick, and say some tablet, and you nowadays you are getting some pen also to to write on a touch pens on your Android touch mobiles or etc. To note something, you are getting some pens also. That is also one of the input device. These are all the various input devices that are available in the market. And next we come to the output devices. The most powerful and everybody daily see who is going to use the computer is your monitor. That is the best example of your output device. There are some others, like you may see some plotter, you may see some printer, okay, some storage data, okay, like whatever it is. There are called as output devices, and these output devices will print or will deliver the output in the form of characters and images. Here a question may arises. Whatever the data we are entering is in terms of general English language, which is maybe known as high level language, that later converted into the binary code. And after processing, if you want the results also, even that result which is there in the form of binary code is again converted in terms of characters and images by these output devices. Like for example, using the electronic conversation, you know the modems, modulator and demodulators. So these modulator and demodulators converts the digital data to analog form for transmission of over telephone lines. So whatever the digital data that is passed, that will be converted to analog to transmit over telephone lines, because telephone lines you cannot transmit the digital data. So like that, these output devices converts the binary codes into characters and images. The next one is memory. I told you there are two major types of memories. One is primary memory, which is used to hold data and instructions during the processing. Examples are RAM, your random access memory. So this primary memory is relatively limited capacity and is volatile. Volatile means when the power goes off, the data will be erased. So this primary memory consists of set of locations defined by sequential numbering address. You might have this. I don't know whether you have this data structures concept already discussed or not. If not, in that data structures you have a concept called as stack. Stack means it is a set of locations arranged in a serial fashion, serial fashion by giving a number to each location. Those numbers are allocated in binary form. 0000, that is location number 1, 0001, location number 2, 0010, location number 2. Like means 0010, if you convert this binary into decimal, you will get location number 2. Like that, with the help of this binary number coding system, all the memory locations are given a unique ID called as address of the location. So this is about the primary memory. The second one is secondary memory. It is used to provide permanent long-term storage. I told you secondary memories examples in the previous discussion. I told you like your pen drive, CDs, DVDs, hard disks. Some you might have not seen floppy disks also there. When we used the computers in the very much beginning, there are some floppy disks also there. Nowadays nobody is using these floppy disks. So these are all comes under secondary memory. So they are non-volatile, they have large capacity. Okay, some tapes also there to store the data. So here you see the data in the hard disks, floppy disks and tapes are stored using magnetized spots. I am repeating again, the data in the hard disks, floppy disks and tapes is stored in the form of magnetized spots. However, whereas the data in CDs, DVDs stores by using some pits, means some surface marks detectable by laser rays. I am repeating, hard disk, floppy disk, tapes, magnetized spot, CDs, DVDs, surface masks that are detectable by laser light. This is about the primary memory and the secondary memory, which are the two basic concepts of your memory. See, remember here again, there is a lot to discuss about this memory concept, like virtual memory, cache memory, RAM, ROM, PROM, EEPROM, etc., etc. But all these we will discuss, I think, in the third or fourth unit. The memory configuration, memory is there. This is a third unit, I think so. We will discuss that at that point of time in detail. Now coming to the next and the fourth one, the foremost important part of the computer hardware is CPU. I told you, central processing unit. So as I have already discussed, it is a heart of computer or brain of the computer, you can say. It contains basically two parts, ALU and CU. See, in the screen you are watching the third part of this CPU also called as registers. These registers are a small storage devices that are built in the CPU for storing the temporary data. See, temporary data means, see, for example, when you are performing a multiplication, say for example 29 into 4, say I'm giving an example, 29 into 4. So first how you do this multiplication, 4 into 9, 36. So you will keep 36 in your mind and 6 you will write there. So keeping 36 in mind, 3 in mind temporarily, and after multiplying this 4 with the second digit, that is 3, 4 into 3, 12, and that 3 is added, 15. So however you store that value 3 in the temporarily mind, so here also when the logical and arithmetic operations are being performed, some temporary data may be generated. To store that temporary data, this CPU uses a small memory locations named as registers. So the CPU performs actual processing of data according to the instructions from programs that are given by the user. And CPU requires the data to take from the storage area, and also CPU copies the data to the storage area after processing some operation. So signals representing the data and instructions travel between system components through electronic pathways. Means, so from all these components, if you want to transfer or if you want to move the data from one component to another component, we use some electronic pathways. These electronic pathways called as buses. Means bus is defined as a group of wires, electronic pathway. So is called as a bus, and the concept of bus and its bus structure we will discuss in the third subtopic of your first part of this unit 1 in the third session. So here this capacity of the bus will critically decides the system performance. Means based on the length of the bus, the system performance will be improves. The high the length, the more the performance of the system is like. So when you go to the second part of here is software. I told you hardware and software. The physical component which you can see with your eyes is hardware, and software is a logical component of your computer. So it provides the instructions to tell the hardware what task to perform. It provides the instructions to tell to the hardware what task to perform. Means I told you just now, CPU, ALU, which is a part of CPU, CU, which is a part of CPU, storage unit, input device, output device. These all are performing some operations. But what operation to be performed? Who will tell? User. In the form of what? A program. So what is a program? The program to be executed. To execute the program, we need something else, background. So these are all grouped together called as the concept of software. So this software is generally divided into two parts. They are system software and application software. So these softwares are generally created in high level language. I told you in the very beginning, high level programming language, but the computer cannot understand it. These high level language instructions are later converted into machine languages by some hardware components. So these machine languages code, which is written in the form of zeros and ones, nothing but binary code. So this is done before the hardware can run the code. There are two types of softwares. One is system software and the application software. So what is system software and what is application software? This system software is used to run the computer hardware and computer system itself. By this you might have understood the example of the system software. See, initially whenever you switch on the system, the computer is going to automatically some operation called as booting. How it is going to perform this booting? With the help of an operating system. So like your Windows XP your Android, whatever your Linux, what you might have discussed, learned in the, you are going to learn in the next semester. These are all the operating systems which are the examples for the system software. Okay, so device drivers and some diagnostic tools means there is an error in the system, the system is not starting. Okay, like these diagnostic tools you call, these are all called as system softwares. And you remember, all these system softwares are almost always pre-installed in your computer. So when you buy, when you purchase your computer, they're already installed and given to you. These are all called as the system softwares. The next one is application software. This application software allows users to accomplish one or more tasks. Means if we want to perform any operation, we need to enter some instructions and some data by the user. So they are called as application softwares. Like it includes word processing, web browsing, and almost any other task for which you might install software. See, like your C programming, your Java, your MS Office. Okay, these are all called as application softwares which are used to perform certain type of applications. And remember, in some systems, these application software are also pre-installed. Like see, nowadays if you buy a laptop, they are already installing the MS Office licensed version with a lifetime warranty. So initially some operations like Acrobat Reader, PDF, what you say, these are all already pre-installed and will be given. But some softwares, based on the type of applications, based on the type of programs, you need to install by yourself, like C language. You need to install C compiler. Java, you need to install JVM, Java Virtual Machines. Like Oracle is a backend tool. So you need to install Oracle software, like that. These are all called as application softwares. So these are the two types of softwares. You see in the diagram in this slide, like a flow chart. You know what is a flow chart already. So it is some small example I have given here, how a program is written by the user. You know very well. Of course, generally when a problem is given, you will write the program by yourself. But it is not a correct step, as you already learned in the FCS first unit. First you have to write an algorithm. Why you need to write the algorithm? It is very easy to understand by the normal user. Normal user means the one who doesn't know anything about a technicality. The one who doesn't know anything about the technicality, technical notations. A layman, if he wants to understand the program, we need to write by using this algorithm only. Once you write the algorithm, if your customer for whom you are generating the application is understood and certified by him, then you will convert that into pseudocode, and after pseudocode, that pseudocode will be later converted into program. Okay, so here in between this algorithm and pseudocode, you have something else called as a flow chart. Means how all the instructions, how the activities, step-by-step activities with different possible ways are being executed, you will represent in terms of a picture, in terms of symbols. Okay, that is called as a symbolic representation of all your activities is called as a flowchart. Here I have given a small example for a flowchart, like can I go to movie or not. So for that, if you have money, you may go. If you don't have money, you cannot. Again, if you have money also and you have completed your total homework or whatever it is, if you have not completed, you can't go. If you completed, yeah, you can go. Like that, there are different steps are there, different decision makings are there. For that, you can represent all the combination of decision makings with a single diagrammatic representation by using the flowchart. So this is the end of the session 1. For any queries or doubts on today's topic, you are feel free. I have given my number also here. You can call to me, or if the doubt or the question what you want to express is a little bit elaborated, you can mail me also by specifying your roll number and name in that mail. I will definitely answer your questions or doubts by either using a mail if it is a lengthy answer, or if by making a call to you. I will definitely clear your doubts. Better you get the doubts clarification every day at end only, because if you go to the next topic, before going to the next topic, it is better to clear all the doubts. I hope these are very basic topics what we have discussed now. I don't think that you will get more doubts, but anyhow, if any doubts are there, you can feel free. Dear students, this is my first lecture to you. So it is my humble request that my way of speaking, my fastness, or my communication, whatever it is, if you found any problem, you are feel free to intimate me, so that I will try to mold myself to teach you in a better understanding way from the next session onwards. So, end of the session 1. So, computer organization, unit 1 out of total 5 units. The first unit contains 3 parts. Now today we have started part 1, and in this part 1 also there are 3 subtopics are there, like basic computer organization and historical perspective and bus structure. Today we have completed the basic computer organization is the first topic, and the second one, historical perspective, will be discussed in the next session. Thank you one and all. Hope you are all doing well. Stay home and stay healthy. Thank you one and all.